In today's episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Michael from Copper Frog Games to talk all about his new game, Chiseled. Then we'll see what's on Kickstarter. But first, a message about our sponsors. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Torres Games, who are bringing Serpent Master back to Kickstarter the first of next month. Serpent Master is a card-driven abstract board game for 1 to 4 players where a player must keep their serpent on top to win. Plus, they're doing a giveaway with us, or a few of them in fact, over there at thegiveawaygeek.com. Enter today and back their Kickstarter on the 1st of August.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Critics are coming to rate your sculptures. Grab a mallet and a rasp and sculpt your block of marble. But what will you do when your fellow sculptors grab the only mallet on the workbench, or the one rasp? Will you settle for the risky saw, meddle with your rivals with the polishing stone, or will you plan ahead with the maquette?
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me either, but that's why we're here. This is the story of Chiseled, a deck sculpting game that's about to or already on Kickstarter, and today we're lucky enough to have on Michael from Copper Frog Games, the creator mastermind behind that. Is that right, Michael? Is that how you fall in line with Chiseled?
That's me. Yep. So Chiseled is coming to Kickstarter July 23rd, and it'll be live for 25 days.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We really appreciate it, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, before we jump into that, maybe somebody hasn't heard our previous episode when we had you for Pigment, one of your previous games, but let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into playing tabletop board games?
I've played games of various sorts my whole life, mostly video games up until high school. But technically, I've been making board games of some sort for a long time. The most polished one that I created back in my early days was back in senior year of high school. It was a little game with me and my friends as the main characters. It was pretty bad, but it kind of was something that got me into making games in addition to just playing them. I really started playing more tabletop than video games when I learned D&D back in 2007, and I've been playing role-playing games and board games ever since.
Well, there you go. Awesome. What are you playing these days?
I currently work as an event coordinator at a local game and comic shop, so I actually get to play a lot of games every week, which is nice. My favorites right now would probably be Gizmos, which is an engine building game from Cool Mini or Not, which I really like because of the components and the cute art. Sentinels of the Multiverse. I still love that game due to the complexity of the interactions and especially the lore. I'm very excited for the role-playing game for that to come out later this year. And then Tiny Towns has been hitting my table a lot as well. I really like the simplicity, the cute art, and it's very easy to teach and play with a lot of different people on different levels.
What kind of mechanics does that one use?
So Tiny Towns is a game where you're laying out resources on a grid, and there are certain structures that you can build when you have those shapes laid out. So say you've got a wood and a stone next to each other. That can let you build a well. A well is worth a point for every house next to it. But if you don't manage to get that right shape made, and since you've only got a 4x4 grid, you're likely to have to place things in places that aren't as opportune. You kind of have a bit of a indirect competition where you're placing what you want, but other people also have to place the same resource that you placed every turn.
That sounds pretty fun. And something else that sounds pretty fun is Chiseled, a deck sculpting game. What can you tell us about that, Michael?
Yeah, so Chiseled is a reverse deck building game at its core. You're removing cards from your deck using various tool actions to increase the deck's base value. There's also three critics on the way who each have their own dislikes and likes, things that they want you to make your sculpture look less like, look more like. So by removing and accentuating certain sculpted elements in addition to removing scrap, you can please the critics for a bonus at the end of the game.
Awesome. And the critics, are they kind of like an AI or?
No, they're actually not AI at all. Mainly because they're based on real people. All of the art for the critics features people who have worked on Chiseled or other Copper Frog Games products.
Okay, so at the end, that comes into play at the end of the game, depending on if you've met such and such conditions, and you get more points.
Each one offers an end game bonus effect based on the cards that you've removed from your sculpture. So, for instance, my critic, the Renaissance Patron, likes if you've removed more gold than silver accented cards from your sculpture, then you'll get his bonus of 4 points.
Okay, so if I decide to go one way and my wife goes that way, it's not going to foil my plans. Well, that's pretty good to hear, yeah, because most of the time I'll pick a route and then I'll end up getting my plans will get foiled and I don't have a backup plan, so that kind of screws me over most of the time.
Exactly. And multiple players can meet critics' conditions, and multiple critics can score for a single player too.
Well, there you go. It gives you options. That's good.
Correct. Well, luckily, there's always the option of not even caring what the critics need, and you can just focus on being very precise in your sculpting.
Okay, so that sounds interesting.
Exactly. But again, it's very much like a deck building game in that you've got a certain set of your cards that you're working with each round. But the coolest part is that there's an action drafting mechanism. The tool bench only has one copy of each tool. When you use a tool, you flip it, you can only use a face up tool. So you might get stuck using a tool that will interact poorly with the cards that you currently have in hand, or you might end up accidentally removing like a bunch of arm cards from your sculpture, and then you're left with a Venus de Milo type thing.
Now, per se, me and you sat down to play Chisel. What's my turn gonna look like or consist of, Michael?
Sure. So on your turn, there's really 4 steps. You sculpt by flipping a tool card and using its effect. If all the tool cards were flipped at the beginning of your turn, you'll just flip them all face up again. And that means first player will effectively rotate around the table for who gets first pick. You'll use a tool effect. Say you use the rasp. The rasp lets you trash up to 2 cards from your hand. So you can choose 0, 1, or 2 of the cards from your 3-card hand, trash those, discard the remaining, that's called the cleanup phase, and then you draw a new hand, typically of 3 cards. Certain tools will make you draw extra cards for your next hand. Those are usually the ones that are later in the sculpting process. So like the polishing stone and the polishing rag, which is a stretch goal for the expansion. Once you've cleaned up, you'll consult the critics. If you have 3 or more non-scrap cards in your hand of any sort, then you'll end up having to adjust your critic counter. When they check in 5 times for any player, each other player will get one last turn, but then the game will end. So the more polished your sculpture looks by removing scrap, the closer they'll get and the faster they'll end the game. Then you'll pass to the left. That's really it.
Okay, and so just so I'm understanding correctly, so it's kind of like you said, it's kind of like a deck builder. So I have a deck here, but I'm still just using a hand of cards at a time.
Yeah, so you're using typically 3 cards at a time. That's kind of the section of marble that you're working with.
Okay, and then they look at the deck, or do I end up putting out certain cards that will be my sculpture at the end?
Yeah, so it's based entirely on your deck at the end of the game. So you're going to end up with 2 major piles. You'll have your sculpture, which is made up of the cards that you've been drawing from, your discard pile, and your hand. but then the trash pile is separate and removed from the deck.
Okay, so just exactly like it sounds, a deck sculpting game, so that's pretty cool.
Yep, your deck is your block of marble. You're trying to make it worth as many points as possible by increasing its artistry value, removing scrap, which is always negative points, and accentuating the good elements in different ways. There are three main sculpted elements in a sculpture. So you've got the heads. Those cards are worth 2 points each, for instance. So you don't want to remove any of them from your sculpture. The arms are worth 3 points, but only if you remove at least 5 of them. Of course, if you remove all of them, then you don't get any points for them, and so on and so forth.
And is there any take that elements in it?
The core game is mostly indirect opposition. The polishing stone is a tool that lets you interfere with all players' decks, but for most of those take that elements, there's actually going to be a day one expansion which introduces that. That expansion is called Sinacera and will be included in all the deluxe tier pledges for the Kickstarter.
Okay, so that'll be the one I need to go with, the Chiseled Deluxe.
Chiseled Deluxe will include Sinacera. Sinacera is a small expansion that includes both new tools and a new take that element in the form of waxed marble. So if you look up the phrase Sinacera, it's Latin for without wax. Wax was used by sculptors sometimes to cover up blemishes in the marble or fix mistakes, but Sinacera refers to something being very unadulterated, very pure, very perfect in its own right. So the waxed marble cards are worth points, unless you have the most. Then they're worth negative points. So your goal with the waxed marble is to discard them into other players' discard piles so that they have more at the end of the game than you. But if you give them some but not all, they might end up having a higher score than you because they get a bonus. And they can also, of course, be trashed as normal, leading to some very interesting hot or not mechanic take that elements.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty fun element to add, so that'll be the other one I'll probably have to go with, so that's pretty cool. Now, when you did Chiseled, was there ever anything that you had to chisel out of the game during playtesting because it just wouldn't work?
I see what you did there. Yeah, so the original idea was much closer to a traditional deck builder. I really wanted everyone to start with this block of scrap, but then the elements that you were sculpting towards were actually outside the deck to begin with. So, like, there was a graceful arc, a delicate gesture. But I realized that that was me trying to be too much like other traditional deck building games like Ascension or Dominion. And sculpting is a subtractive medium. You're always removing from the stone to reveal the art within.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So when it comes to Chisel, what makes your game pop as one my audience should go check out and back it if they like what they see so they can make Chiseled reality?
Yeah, so I think that people really like Chiseled because it's very unique. There's very few deck destruction games out there, and this one really has the most perfect match to the idea of removing to increase the value. It's like that joke, what gets bigger the more you take out of it? A hole. What gets prettier the more you take out of it? A sculpture. It's unique, it's fast, plays in under 20 to 30 minutes usually. It's fun, offers a unique puzzle every turn for players to solve, based not only on what's in their hand and what they want to get rid of, but also what tools are available, what tools they want to make unavailable to their opponents. It's got a great little solo mode, which I like for lunches because I can usually go through a couple of those in 15, 20 minutes, trying to beat my score. It really feels like you're making something, which I think is something that appeals to a lot of players. Um, and I think that's really why I make games about art in the first place. It's why engine builders are so popular. It's why deck builders are so popular. It's why bag builders are so popular. You're building, you're making. but in this case, you're making by breaking.
Okay, so that yeah, it sounds pretty cool. So anybody listening, make sure you go ahead and jump on over and either depending on if it's launched, back it, and if it hasn't launched yet, by the time you're hearing this, click on the link on the top left-hand corner. It'll say "Notify me on launch," and they'll give you an email when they go live or Kickstarter notification or whatnot. So do that. And now mine is coming there to your hometown to stalk you. How would people go about keeping up with you, Michael, and what you're doing over there at Copper Frog Games?
Yeah, so we're on social media, facebook.com/copperfroggames, all one word, no hyphens, no nothing. We're on Twitter as Copperfrog Games. And honestly, come stalk me in person. I run game nights every Wednesday at Omar's World of Comics and Hobbies in Lexington, Massachusetts, that is. I'll also be at Gen Con helping out White Wizard Games, demoing Star Realms, Hero Realms, and Sorcerer. They're great people, great friends of mine. And I'll also be running a few Chiseled events in the evenings at Gen Con on Friday and Saturday. If you see someone in a Copper Frog Games shirt, that's a black shirt with a little orange frog on the front, pull me aside, say hi, I'll have the game with me.
Well, there you go. So they can try it, and that's during the campaign, isn't it?
It is. It's right in the middle. It was kind of a last minute decision that I agreed to go. Um, but honestly, I'm really excited, and I'm excited to be able to share Chiseled at the best 4 days in gaming.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so hopefully more people will be able to experience it that way as well. Now, some per se somebody's listening to this later on down the road after Chiseled already funded on Kickstarter and everything. Is there any secrets of what they might be able to share with us on what you're working on later on?
Leading into this Kickstarter, I know that I've got a lot of other games I'm still designing. I actually just printed out my first print on demand copy of a game called Spores Alive, which is a very small, light card game about chain reactions that I'm hoping to have some limited copies of at PAX Unplugged in December. We're going to have a booth there at Copper Frog Games. Look for us on the map. Um, and I'll probably try and print like 20 or 30 of these to have at the booth. So come try that out. It's real fun. It's real quick. 5-10 minute game about chain reactions and little puffball mushrooms. Um, we're also currently working on kind of a deluxe reprint of Pigment for the future. We'll see what that holds, but I'm excited about the possibilities for that.
Well, and will either of those be going to Kickstarter?
Spores Alive might be going to Kickstarter. I might also just print it on my own. We'll see what happens. Um, but then the Pigment reprint, we might do kind of a Deluxify Me Captain Kickstarter where the more money we raise, the more we can Deluxify the game.
Oh, there you go. So kind of like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, rather than just doing a straight up reprint, I'd like to improve on things that people liked and maybe alter some of the stuff that people have mentioned as it gets a little different and not as fun over the years. Like Pigment's been out for over a year at this point, which is great. We delivered early and people have really enjoyed it. We've actually nearly sold out of our entire print run and we're not even in distribution right now. So also, if you're looking to get a copy of Pigment, back our Kickstarter, we'll have a level for backers to get both the Chiseled Deluxe version, Pigment, and some extra hardwood meeples from our Meeple Machine Kickstarter.
Okay, so and what one's that? Is that what level is that?
So that will be a $60 tier for stone, wood, and paint.
Okay, so not up at the time of this recording. Okay,
Yeah, not at the time of recording, but it is there.
okay, awesome. So we'll have to look out for that one as well. So yeah, I don't want to keep you all day. I know you're busy getting ready for the Kickstarter, and it sounds like you need some extra sleep. But we really appreciate you coming on.
Oh gosh, you have no idea. It's been a long month, but I'm really excited to how things are shaping up. I know that I've sent out a few preview copies to folks and they've loved them. So I'm really excited to be able to share those preview videos and stuff on the page when we launch.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, I guess we'll have to watch out to see who it'll be or whatnot. But yeah, we don't want to keep you all day, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us to talk all about Chiseled, the deck sculpting game that'll be on Kickstarter through what day, Michael, again?
It'll be July 23rd through August 17th. So 25 days.
Okay, so if you're listening before the 17th of August, make sure you jump on over and check out Chisel, the deck sculpting game, and back it so we can make this game a reality just like all Michael's other games. We really appreciate it, Michael.
Thanks so much, Lake. It was great being on.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Wow, that was great sitting down with Michael. Even though it's not a deck building game, I'm excited to play Chiseled. If you feel the same way, make sure you back their Kickstarter today so we can make it a reality. Now, let's go with Batterina Leaf, shall we? Where are we going, Batterina Leaf?
Kickstarter corner!
You've got dice. You've got plenty of solid colored dice. I knew that. But what you don't have enough of is multicolored dice. How could you? That's what I thought. Well, fret no longer, as Bryce's Dice are now on Kickstarter with Anthology of Dice, The Beginning, which is a line of polyhedral dice sets with tricolor and dual color effects for Bryce's Dice. Y'all made tie-dyed shirts as kids? Well, now Bryce's Dice are going to make you the equivalent to bring to game night. If you like the sound of that, make sure you head on over to check out their campaign via the link in our show notes. If they get enough backers through this link, we might even do a giveaway with them over at thegiveawaygeek.com. Once you've backed it, make sure you comment on their Kickstarter page, letting them know that GamerLeaf sent you. In the near future, cloning dinosaurs is cheap, easy, and commonplace. As public demand for even state-of-the-art dinosaur zoos waned, underground fight clubs quickly became popular and began producing huge dividends. Trainers began making highly illegal genetic modifications to their dinosaurs' stock. Numerous high-profile accidents calls for international cooperation in regulating the new industry. With millions of dollars involved, several countries began to legalize prehistoric pit fighting. Specialized training schools appeared, and soon dinosaur fighting was legal worldwide. The Ultimate Dinosaur Fighting League was formed, and in just a few years became the world's largest professional sports organization. The most successful dinosaurs and their trainers are some of the world's richest, most famous, or infamous celebrities in the world. Will you be among them? Did that sound familiar to you? Well, good thing I'm here then. This is a story of Ultimate Dinosaur Fighting. It's a miniature board game for 2 to 6 players with playtime of 30 to 45 minutes, no downtime, and no player elimination. If you dare try Ultimate Dinosaur Fighting, you'll step into a world where you control these ancient beasts, where every stamp of the foot, twitch of the tail, or flap of the wings could be their last. The game is easy to learn, fast-paced, quick to set up, has a high replay value, and is just great fun. You can play one-off scrimmage battles, a series of battles in a tournament setting, or use their campaign rules to run a stable of dinosaurs through an entire league season. You can add in mutations, tech upgrades, and training to ready your prized prehistoric gladiator to take on any beast in the pit. Sound fun? I thought so. So make sure you back their Kickstarter campaign for Ultimate Dinosaur Fighting before Thursday the 15th of August. Tell them GamerLeaf sent you. Long ago, there was a thriving kingdom of sprawling cities, breathtaking landscapes, and unparalleled magic, known as Everdell. It was a place of great wealth and diversity, powered by mystical orbs and elemental energy. At the height of its power, Everdell was destroyed by a cataclysm of magical energy. Left in ruins, the realms of Everdell were forgotten. Sound familiar to you guys? Well, good thing I'm here then. In the game of Dwellings of Everdell, you control a faction of mythical beings returning to Everdell to rediscover its treasures, harness its powers, and ultimately build dwellings. It won't be easy. Other factions have the same intentions, and powerful monsters still lurk in these forgotten lands. If you dare enter the dwellings of Everdell, then you'll be able to enjoy this great worker placement, tableau, engine building, area control game that features dice-driven battles, unique factions with special powers, and highly interactive gameplay. Each time you play, the game will be different. Points are scored in a variety of ways, but are primarily earned by constructing dwellings, acquiring tableau cards, completing prophecies, and gaining elemental powers. Sounds like a game that Gamerleaf needs to play. If you feel the same way about yourself, make sure you jump on over and back Dwellings of Everdell before Thursday, the 25th of July. And if we be so lucky, we should be setting up a giveaway of Dwellings of Everdell with breaking games shortly, so keep an eye over at thegiveawaygeek.com for that to land soon. Are you prepared to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their dice? Then you're not going to want to miss the next Kickstarter game coming to you from S7 Games. It's called Conan Savage Legends, in which you take control of a legend in Robert E. Howard's Hyborian age as you seek to destroy your enemies in a fast-paced fight to the death. In this 2 to 4 player arena-style combat miniature game, you will use powerful relics and plundered riches to engage foes in glorious combat. Destroy your opponents with sheer might or cunning tactics and prove to your foes why you deserve the title Savage Legend. Are you game enough for Conan Savage Legends? Prove it now by backing Conan Savage Legends on Kickstarter before August 8th. Plus, don't miss my sit-down with someone from S7 Games when we dive deep in the episode entitled, What Kind of Legend Are You? If you liked any of the games we talked about in today's episode, make sure you check out their Kickstarter campaigns to show them and us a little love. Backing them goes a long way. Plus, make sure to stay up to date on all the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. There will be at least 2 to 3 new giveaways going live over there next week. It's our least favorite time as well as yours, so until next episode, make sure you go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geekfold by sharing our episodes with others, as well as keeping up with the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. Gamerleaf out.
Gamerleaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamerleaf's luck holds up.